What's going on, my friends? Sean Pierce Johnson here, and welcome back to Stompbox Saturday. Today we are looking at a pedal that some guitar players hold very near and dear to their hearts because it was most of their first pedal. Today it is the Boss DS-1w, the Waza Craft edition of the venerable distortion pedal. Now, I can't lump myself in with that particular group. My first Boss distortion pedal was not the orange distortion. It was the metal zone. But I know a lot about the DS-1 because even though I had the metal zone before it, I had used and played the DS-1 many times in the ensuing years. Never once owned one, but that might be changing thanks to the DS-1w. Like all the other Waza Craft pedals, this takes a classic Boss design and gives it a little bit of a revamp, gives it a little bit uptick in quality, and maybe even improves the overall sound of it. So let's go ahead and throw the pedal up on the screen so you guys can take a look at the controls and I can walk you through some of the special things about the DS-1w. The best part about all these Waza Craft pedals that Boss has put out over the years is that nothing veers too far from the original theme. Just like the classic orange box, it has the 3-knob layout with level in the center. Keep that in mind because sometimes I notice guitar players immediately cranking that or turning it down thinking it's the tone knob. It's not. This is the level control. And to the left of that is the tone control, and to the right of that is the distortion level. Now we know when we see that Waza Craft designation on the foot switch that this isn't your run-of-the-mill Boss pedal. It's a little bit more special than that. And thanks to that 2-position SC switch, standing for standard and custom, we have access to 2 different voicings of this classic pedal. The standard is basically what we know, but maybe made a little bit more. And then with the custom mode, the Boss engineers basically get a field day and they can make any improvements or upgrades or modifications that they see fit. This, in my opinion, is the classic gold standard 3-knob distortion pedal. But the DS-1 gets a bad rap, and some of it well deserved, but I think it's a little bit misinformed. So this is what I would like to do in this video for you today. The first thing we need to do is we should hear the standard voicing and the custom voicing side by side with a couple different settings and maybe even a couple different guitars just to get an idea of what it can do for us. Second, perhaps a little bit of myth busting. There are some common thoughts related to the DS-1 that are, in my opinion, when I hear them, kinda silly. But we will judge for ourselves later on. And then the final phase of this is gonna be some further experimentation, figuring out ways that I would work this into my musical setup, but also wondering why is it that so many great shred gods have had a DS-1 on their pedal boards since, I don't know, the 80s. So let's go ahead and get this party started. Starting out with the main Les Paul, we're plugged into the orange Rockerverb's clean channel. That's running into my PPC 212 and mic'd up with a Shure SM57 and a Hilby Boho ribbon microphone, giving a nice little blend so that things just kind of sound like I think they should sound. We'll start our comparison of the 2 modes by keeping all knobs straight up at 12 o'clock on the dial. And once we get an idea of what the differences are there, we'll start tweaking things to our tastes. differences are clear right off the bat. As a matter of fact, I would even, instead of thinking of this as standard and custom, think of it as beginner and advanced, because the vibe that I get when I play those two modes takes me first in standard right back to when I was 14 years old, got my first distortion pedals, and it was just like trying to get all this gain. I had no concept of what tone really was, and then switching over to the custom is more like I've grown up a bit. I'm now at my age currently. I'm looking at tone in a more different way and going for a sound that maybe is a lot fuller. It's not as like aggressive and harsh, even though I do love me some aggressive tones still. It's a very interesting thing, and there's definitely apparent differences not only in the volume output, but also in the tone stack as well. And it's also crazy how different the output is. With the standard mode, I had to crank it to really get that unity gain sound, but in custom, I was able to bring that volume down much more to get closer to a good balance between my clean sound and the dirty sound. Now let's go ahead and jump into some myth busting on the DS-1w. There's a lot of different things going on around this pedal that is sort of well-founded, and then some not so well-founded. Let's first talk about the most prevalent thing that I hear, and that is that the DS-1 as a circuit does not like hot pickups. Now, some of you have already asked me this question in other comments for other videos, but I'll go ahead and say it right now up front. I have a Seymour Duncan JB bridge pickup in my main Les Paul, and this is a sound that I've become very familiar with. It's been in the guitar for 13, 14, 15 years at this point. The JB as a bridge pickup utilizes an Alnico 5 magnet and measures 16.6K DCR. That's DC resistance. Now conversely, my good friend Mike Peterson of Map Guitars lent me this Petrum, which has Lollar Imperial high wind pickups in it. Now this, it doesn't say on the website what the magnet is in it, but you can basically look at it as a sort of higher wound PAF style pickup, and its DCR measurement is 9.4K. And although I can't provide a measurement for these pickups because they're just not listed on the website, but I know for a fact that these Glarry humbuckers have a much lower output than almost every single other humbucker equipped guitar I currently have, and believe me, I have a lot of them. So let's think about it. Does the DS-1, or DS-1w in this case, not get along with high output pickups? We'll use the JB as the benchmark, and then every other guitar with humbuckers that I bring in after that will be judged against that. If I had to pinpoint what we should be listening for, we should probably be listening for a combination of the following. First and foremost, does it seem like the pedal is reacting well to the guitar, either by utilizing the volume knob to clean it up ever so slightly, or does it seem like when I strike the strings that the pedal starts to sort of fold in on itself and compress? Second, how greatly is the gain structure that the pedal is creating affected by the output of the pickups? Obviously, we can think of output as gain going into the pedal, so it's kind of like the lower the output, the more we might have to goose the gain in order to get a consistent sound. And the third thing is really the most subjective thing. Does it actually sound good? Well, let's go ahead and turn the knobs to something that I think sounds good with this and judge it accordingly with the other guitars. would say what it really comes down to is how the guitar is set up. The Petrum has a little bit lower action than this Vosti and the Glarry. And I sort of feel like that translates to how I play each guitar. Because each guitar has a slightly different setup, I tend to approach hitting the notes on the fretboard in a different way. But largely the tone produced by the DS-1 wasn't all that different. But were any of them bad? No, I wouldn't say that any of them was bad. I think they're all perfectly usable. It's just a matter of what's the sound that you're going for. Do you want something that's a bit more gainy and compressed? Try the high output pickup. Maybe don't go for the active pickups. I've never personally been an active pickup fan, so I'm not going to go that route, but you might not want to go that route. Now, this next little myth is more about what kind of amp should you run this thing into. Because it's a distortion, you're more than likely going to be inclined to run it into something that's really nice and clean. So why don't I go ahead and plug into an amp that gets a little bit cleaner than the orange, and then we'll run it into that kind of sound. Now, personally, I feel like a good candidate for this job is this, the VLD-1 Legacy Drive preamp from Carvin. This is the legacy amp in a box, and Vi has used a DS-1 or some variation of it for decades. As a matter of fact, this is kind of where my myth busting comes from, because watching live at the Astoria when I first saw it when I was like 15 or 16 years old, I'm like, what the heck is Vi doing with a DS-1 on his pedal board? Well, let's try to get a little bit of a clean sound from this and see why. So with the Legacy Drive plugged into the Rockerverb's power amp and into that same cab, this is the clean tone that we start out with. Now we're plugged back into the Rockerverb, which the clean channel can get a little bit more hairy on. So let's see if there's a difference. I don't know if I agree with that one. I actually thought it sounded better as just a straight distortion running into the Legacy Drive. And the settings on the EQ are pretty much everything on 7 with just slight adjustments, and I went as close for Vi's clean tone as I possibly could. And I don't know, I liked that a whole lot better. And now let's just go out with a bang, having some fun, using the DS-1w in all sorts of different crazy ways, just having a good old time, because that's what these things are supposed to be for. They're supposed to be having fun, creating, and making music. So let's do it. my friends, the Boss DS-1w, the Waza Craft edition of most guitar players' first distortion pedal. So really, this is quite an eye-opening thing, especially for me, because this is the first time in a long time that I've had a DS-1 variant in the studio to really tweak out on and just really hone in on what makes the pedal great and also what makes the pedal not so great. It has a lot of usable sounds. It's just a matter of you finding them and understanding some of the quirks that come along with it. And hopefully some of the things that we talked about here will get your creative juices flowing and really make you think about tone. Because let's face it, there's a lot of myth busting going on around right now within guitar tone circles, and that's certainly an okay thing to experience. But reality is that we can watch these myth busting videos all we want, and we can listen to people talk about them. You can even listen to what I just did. But what really matters is getting things in your space and understanding them in the context of your rig, your playing, your studio, and just seeing how you can make music with these things that maybe you would never have thought of using before to make music. And I think that's the beauty of all this great gear that is at our disposal. In closing, I really hope you enjoyed this video on the DS-1w. I know I enjoyed making it for you despite a few technical difficulties in the filming of this, but I greatly appreciate you spending part of your day with me. If you enjoyed this video in any way or just learned something from it, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comment section below, and if you want to help support me in my endeavor to make better guitar gear videos for all types of players, I would love it if you supported the channel by doing one of the two things. First, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell, or go one step above that and join my email newsletter club. Just go to SeanPierceJohnson.com/email, enter your first and last name and your email address. It's gonna take me a couple days to get your name into the system because I have to enter it manually, but you'll get a confirmation knowing that you are now part of the club. And when the next giveaway happens, you'll be the first to know. Until we see each other next, my friends, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, wishing you all watching great tone, great health, and of course, happy stomping. Cheers, friends. God bless.